唔會啦，請大家靜影相。
Just photo taking only.
會揮下手，得唔得？揮下手。有啲動作。誒，動作係。擺落。好嘅。接過嚟右邊，唔該，右邊。中間，唔該，中間。
好，差唔多啦。咁有請行政長官。
We now invite the Chief Executive and the sixth-term Chief Executive-elect to step onto the stage. Let me tell you about the flow today again. First of all, the Chief Executive will speak in Cantonese and English, and the CE-elect will also make a speech in Cantonese and English, but there will not be any question and answer session. So we'll first hear from the Chief Executive. Friends from the media, members of the Hong Kong public, good morning. Yesterday, the 8th of May, we saw a successful conduct of the sixth-term Chief Executive election. This morning, I am very happy to have the opportunity to speak to the Chief Executive-elect, Mr. John Lee, at the Central Government Office. I congratulated him and gave him my best wishes. I hope that he would be able to form his team and take the lead for Hong Kong to scale new heights in the coming 5 years. The Chief Executive election yesterday was a very important election. Under the instruction and support of the CPG, the Central People's Government, we have seen an improvement of our electoral system. Yesterday's election was the last of the 3 important elections. That means that in accordance with the basic law and patriots administering Hong Kong, we have now established a proper constitutional system. That is very important. After the election yesterday, we have seen this from the statements of the Hong Kong Macau office as well as the liaison office that yesterday's election took place against an important background. It has its significance. In other words, what we have done, the improved system as well as the election, is it consistent with the one country, two systems? It's an improved system. It will ensure Hong Kong's long-term prosperity and stability. Once again, I would like to thank the CPG. When Hong Kong is faced with difficulties never seen before, they have formulated policies. They have put in place national security law to take Hong Kong from chaotic situation to stability. They put in place and improved electoral systems to pave the foundation for long-term stability and prosperity. I would like to take this opportunity to thank every individual and organizations for their support and help. On the 30th of March, the NPCSC amended Annex 1 and 2 of the Basic Law. Pursuant to that, a lot of work had been taken up. That includes local legislation and the conduct of 3 elections in Hong Kong. So to the Legislative Council, I thank them for their support, the support of every single legislator, for their endorsement and support of the local legislative amendment. I like to also thank our colleagues, especially those in the Constitutional and Mainland Affairs, as well as staff members in the EAC, the Electoral Affairs Commission, under the leadership of Justice Barnabas Fong. I would like to also thank civil servants who have assisted in the conduct of the 3 elections. Yesterday, I believe we have mobilized thousands of colleagues to ensure that the election was conducted in an open, honest, fair, efficient, and safe manner. Lastly, I'd like to say that in the remaining time of the current term, that is, in less than 2 months, we still have to tackle a huge amount of work, one of which is to ensure a smooth transition to the next term of government. In the statement I made yesterday, my government will provide all the assistance and support needed for the forming of the 6th term government. That includes reorganization of the government. Within the shortest period, we hope to be able to complete all the relevant procedures. At the same time, we will continue to stabilize the epidemic and forge favorable conditions for opening of the border with the mainland. We would also do our best to enable Hong Kong to resume normal activities so that we can all happily participate in the 25th anniversary celebratory activities.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. John Lee back to the Tamar government offices, following his very successful election as a 6th-term chief executive of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region yesterday. During our brief meeting this morning, I extended to John my warmest congratulations for his election as our next chief executive. And I also promise that this term of government will render all the necessary assistance and support to ensure that he will have every success in forming his governing team and will lead Hong Kong to a greater height in the next 5 years. Yesterday's chief executive election is a very important occasion because it was the 3rd and the final of the first round of 3 elections following the improved electoral system of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. As we all know, there was a very severe backdrop to why we need to improve Hong Kong's electoral system. And I am very grateful to the central authorities for taking very timely measures to help Hong Kong to restore her stability. First, with the enactment and implementation of a national security law, and last year, with the improvements to the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region's electoral system. As pointed out in the statement made by the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office of the State Council and the liaison office of the Chinese People's Government in Hong Kong yesterday, the electoral reform improvements will enable that Hong Kong will continue to thrive as a special administrative region under this important principle of one country, 2 systems, and will also lay a very solid foundation for the continuation of Hong Kong's stability and prosperity. I have to take this occasion to thank, above all, the central authorities for their support and guidance over these years, especially in the improvements to the electoral system, but also to thank thousands of colleagues who had put in a lot of efforts to put in place not only the local legislation for the electoral arrangements, but also to mount 3 successful elections. That is, the election committee subsector election last September and the 7th term legislative council election last December, and then yesterday, the 6th term chief executive election. I have to express my personal appreciation, particularly to the Electoral Affairs Commission, chaired by Justice Barnabas Fung, for hosting a very efficient, honest, and fair election, leading to the election of my former colleague, Mr. John Lee. In the remaining days of this term of government, we will render John every assistance that he needs to form a new government, and including, of course, the much talked about reorganization of the government structure. And at the same time, I and my administration will continue to fight this COVID-19 epidemic in order to enable the people of Hong Kong to return to normal life as soon as possible, and also to lay a strong foundation for the resumption of quarantine travel into the mainland. This year is the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. I hope very much to celebrate this very important occasion with the people of Hong Kong. 而家請李家超先生發言。
Now I would invite Mr. John Lee to speak.
行政長
First of all, I'd like to thank the Chief Executive. Friends from the media, good morning. Yesterday, we saw the 2022 Chief Executive election. Today is the day after I have been elected. There is an enormous amount of work for the transition of government, and we do not have much time. We only have just over 7 weeks. I would very much like to thank the Chief Executive for taking the time out to meet me so that we could start the transition work as soon as possible. I'd like to thank the Chief Executive for making arrangements for the CE-elect office so that I could start my work yesterday afternoon. So I'd like to thank the Chief Executive for her arrangements. I would also like to thank the Hong Kong SAR government under the leadership of the Chief Executive for the smooth and successful conduct of the Chief Executive election yesterday. I am a candidate in this election. I have learned a lot, and I also saw the professional assistance rendered by civil servants in every segment of the election. And I've also learned that the conduct of the election has been positively received. But I've heard them from election committee members. And I'd also like to thank everyone who has helped in the election. Just now, when I was talking to the Chief Executive, we talked about our work in the coming few weeks. That includes matters relating to the reorganization of the government. We've also discussed about the direction of our fight against the epidemic in the coming few weeks. In addition to that, we have also touched on factors to be taken into consideration in the organization of celebratory activities of the 25th anniversary. I thank the Chief Executive for her detailed analysis and planning in relation to the proposed reorganization. I thank her for her input. And I have exchanged views in relation to some details. The Chief Executive has made some comments. I would carefully consider them. And my colleagues in the CE-elect office will work out the details with the Chief Executive's office. Today, I will conduct a duty visit to, first of all, Chief Justice Mr. Andrew Zhang of our judiciary, and then to meet Mr. Andrew Leung, President of the LegCo. This afternoon, I would pay duty visit to the CPG's liaison office CPG's National Security Office and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Commissioner, as well as the Hong Kong garrison. Thank you very much. I will now speak in English.
Yesterday was the 2022 Chief Executive election. I'm grateful to the Chief Executive, Mrs. Carrie Lam, for meeting me today, right on the next day after I was elected. I just had a very useful meeting with the Chief Executive. The discussion was useful to ensure a smooth transition to the new term of government. And we are working under a very tight schedule of some 7 weeks from now to the 1st of July. I would like, first of all, to thank the Chief Executive for arranging very quickly the office of the CE-elect, allowing me to work in the new office in the afternoon right after the election yesterday. I thank her for arranging the office as well as the helpful staff. I would also like to thank the government for organizing a successful and orderly election yesterday. As a candidate during the 2022 CE election, I saw firsthand the professionalism of the civil servants of the government through their meticulous planning of every element of the electoral arrangements. Different members of the election committee have expressed appreciation similarly towards the arrangements. For that, I thank the Hong Kong SAR government under the leadership of the Chief Executive and all the civil servants and personnel who took part and contributed to the smooth running and the success of the election. During the meeting with the Chief Executive earlier, we talked about a number of major tasks to be accomplished in the coming weeks of transition, including the proposed government reorganization package, the latest situation of Hong Kong's work in fighting the epidemic, as well as activities celebrating the 25th anniversary of the establishment of the Hong Kong SAR. I'm grateful to the Chief Executive for proposing a package of government reorganization, which facilitates the smooth transition between the two terms of government. The current proposal has already taken various relevant factors into account, and the suggestions are detailed. We exchanged views on certain elements in the package. I shall reflect on those views, and colleagues in the CE-elect's office will be discussing in detail with the colleagues of the C office ASAP. Later this morning, I shall meet with the Chief Justice of the Court of Final Appeal, Chief Justice Andrew Cheung, and the President of the Legislative Council, Mr. Andrew Leung, respectively. In the afternoon, I shall visit the 4 offices set by the Central People's Government in Hong Kong SAR. That is, Liaison Office of the Central People's Government in the Hong Kong SAR, Office for Safeguarding National Security of the Central People's Government in the SAR, Office of the Commissioner of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Hong Kong SAR, and Chinese People's Liberation Army Hong Kong Garrison. Thank you very much.
好啦，今日嘅會見到此為止，唔該晒大家。
This is the end of the press conference. Thank you.